All right, welcome back to another episode of Key Comic Flip Through. Today's episode, we're going to go over Eastman and Laird's TMNT issue number 1. This is the 5th print because the first print is like $12,000. So we have the 5th print here. I just recently got this at the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo, and I'll give you a little taste of that wraparound cover right there. Something that I really enjoy that they did in the early days of TMNT. I love those wraparound covers, even in this weird format with this giant border here. It's pretty close to how the original books were run. This is actually in a standard comic format. Some of the first print ones, I think the first 4 issues were much larger than this one due to a printing error that they didn't even know until they got the copies back from the printers, but they soon fixed that, I believe, around issue number 5. So we're going to get into TMNT. Originally came out in May of 1984. This reprint, though, was November 1988 with the 5th printing. And they did a pretty good job with this reprint here because it actually maintains the black and white. They didn't colorize it or anything like that. And the duotone really pops on these reprints. And what I mean by duotone is it's a technique for coloring or shading. They have this gray tone that you see right here. Some of it's very dark and some of it is lighter. There's actually 2 different chemicals they use on this special paper. One is a light tone, one is a dark tone, and you can apply your light tones first to accent some of the stuff between the bricks, for instance, right there, and then you can apply your darker tones to give you the shading, the shadowings, and then you have your regular inking as well. So it's a pretty cool chemical process that they used for quite some time. It's still used today, although those chemicals in paper are very expensive and very rare to get your hands on some of that is very rare. So we're going to get into this. Again, a cool splash page right here. The first page actually has a little bit of dialogue about who we are. I hold my katana in a relaxed and ready position. From my left, Donatello and Michelangelo follow suit with staff and nunchuck. So it gives you a little briefing of who the characters are. They're actually pinned down in an alleyway right now by the Purple Dragons, who's this big, tough street gang on the east side. And so they're actually coming at them. You're dead, freaks. Nobody trespasses on the Purple Dragon's turf and gets away with it, especially when they're wearing stupid turtle costumes. Very, very quickly, they realize that these are not costumes as the turtles jump into action. A lot of inner monologue, like a retelling of the story right here. We have our street toughs here. We have our inner monologue from our turtles saying, you know, we jumped in, took out 2 of them at an aerial assault. You know, Raph comes in with the size. I didn't see that coming. And they're actually murdering these people, as you can see inside these pages, knocking them out, blood splatter and everything. Very cool battle scenes. Very cool, very kinetic paneling, gut checks right here, smacking people with size, things like nunchucks, things like that. And then we have Leonardo here saying, hey, they can bleed. That's the street toughs here are saying, you know, who are these guys? I don't know, some kind of freaks, but even freaks can bleed. Yes, we can bleed, but so can you. And they actually get sliced up in this alleyway. So pretty brutal scene right here. This is the Turtles' first outing. They actually were been training their whole entire lives. Splinter sent them on their first mission to go out, stop some crime. That's exactly what they did. And as soon as they do, they vanish into the night, and we get this amazing full page spread right here of just like the silent city with the manhole cover that they showed in the previous shot right here, focused in this shot as well. I like the consistencies in the shot because you see your manhole cover here. It's next to the sidewalk. It's got the spotlight here. There's a gap. There's another spotlight, and then you can see it here as well. But we're kind of zooming out even more to see the full landscape here, to see that full shot. So very, very cool transition in the paneling right here. I love that. Now we're going to focus on the turtles. They're explaining, you know, they were raised inside the sewer. They know every inch of it. We're going to go back to Master Splinter right now. He's happy with the success of their mission. And then he goes into the origin story, you know, exactly why I was training you guys this entire time. Talking about 20 years ago, he had a master called Homoto Yoshi, and he was in a cage mimicking his moves. He was in the Foot Clan, everything like that. And he was the best assassin. He was brilliant, and so he spent most of his time mimicking his movements inside his cage. And then obviously it goes over his rival with this other member, Oroko Nagi, and a mutual love interest that they had. The only one of them can have it, and Oroko Nagi goes into a blind rage, tries to kill her, and is actually murdered in the process of doing that. Now, of course, the brother of Nagi, Oroku Saki, is now taking up the mantle right now, trying to avenge his brother, becoming the best assassin inside of the Foot Clan, and he's actually promoted to go overseas to New York to start the Foot Clan over there. So it's a double win for him because he gets to avenge his brother's death and he gets to set up the Foot Clan over in New York. And of course, some time has passed since that transition. He's developed the Foot Clan and he goes on his revenge mission right here, taking on Hamato Yoshi and killing his wife at the same time, releasing Splinter from his cell, who's then banished down into the sewers. Then Splinter goes on to tell the story of the TGRI ooze and how it got released. There was a man walking across the street about to get hit by this truck delivering this secret ooze, and then this boy jumps in front of his way, stopping the truck from hitting the man. The truck goes out of control, releasing the TGRI canister, which then bounces around, smashes a terrarium full of turtles next to a manhole. The turtles then fall down to the manhole with the canister, shattering the canister, covering the turtles and our Splinter in the ooze. Splinter then gathers the turtles up in an old rusty coffee can, brings them back to where he's been staying, and he starts noticing all these different evolutions, these different things that they do. And they start saying words like saying Splinter, they start walking upright, they start trying to form sentences, things like that, and then slowly but surely they start mimicking his movements, and Splinter trains them in the art of ninjutsu. So a lot of time has passed. Now our turtles are fully grown. They are trained. They are ready to get revenge on Oroku Saki, the Shredder. And so they send Raphael to send a message. I love this shot right here. He's kind of perched up on the edge of the building. And I think that's a really, really cool, just dramatic scene right there. Raphael, very hot-headed, very sure of himself, goes in to the compound. These panels are a little bit dark. I'd like to see what the original first print looks like, but a little bit dark for me. But he goes in here, taking out a few of the guards, infiltrating Shredder's base, tying a note to one of his sides, and basically sending it through the window, delivering the message to the Shredder himself that they want a duel. I give you a chance to regain your honor. Meet my 4 disciples for a duel to the death tomorrow night at the following address. So Shredder is definitely not going to take that lightly. He's going to see what's going on. He doesn't know who these turtles are. He doesn't know who these assailants were, but he's going to show up and kick some ass regardless. So here's our next night right here. Our turtles are getting in position, calling out the Shredder directly. Shredder, face us. And Shredder's sitting by watching these guys. Who are these fools? He does not know anything about these people, who these mutants are, but it does not matter because Shredder not only showed up, but he brought his entire Foot Clan as well. So we get our first giant battle between our Foot Clan and our turtles, and it's an amazing spread right here. There's just so much action going on. Of course, we have Leonardo taking on a couple different Foot Clan members. They have different weapons and things like that, which I think is great to see. Of course, Michelangelo over here as well, and then we have Donatello and Raphael in the background. So this is a really great spread. Lots of detail, lots of action, a lot of cool things going on. So I thought that was awesome. And then as we go through, you know, they're mentioning like, wow, these guys are actually really good. These are people who are actually trained in the ninja arts. And so it's taking a little bit of time to take these guys down, but the turtles are better, eventually knocking them out. Now, Shredder admitting that they are good. They took on their best men, but their best men actually left their marks. And so we get to see our turtles with a little bit of battle damage here, man. They got whooped, but they ended up winning the day against the Foot Clan. But now it's time to take on Shredder. And Shredder's basically asking them, you know, one at a time or all together, your move, let's go. And so Raph jumps in here first, immediately getting hit to the side, getting knocked out. Again, you see this blood splatter. It's pretty gruesome what actually happens in here. And so one at a time, all these characters go head-to-head against Shredder, immediately getting knocked down. Raph first, then we have Donatello getting straight up kicked. Michelangelo tries his hand at just kind of body tackling him, and he throws him aside, yelling amateurs at them. And then we have Leonardo coming in, actually causing some damage to Shredder here, but to himself as well. And then they start reminding themselves like, hey, you know, we got to start being more strategic here. We should attack from a distance as well. They whip out some of the throwing stars, some of the knives, things like that. Eventually, some of them get through, and also the size get thrown as well. They start doing some body tackles, things like that, kind of overwhelming him over time with this brute force, slowly but surely landing blow after blow, eventually knocking off his mask, revealing his face, charging at Leonardo, but then Leonardo actually runs a sword right through him, proclaiming at the next panel, "Now you are beaten, and in order to regain your sense of honor, you must commit suicide." Denying that immediately, he pulls out a thermal grenade, trying to blow himself up and the turtles and the rest and the top of that building at the same time. But Donatello, doing some quick thinking, actually smacks him back in the face, knocking him off the building and creating this giant explosion here. So Shredder was run through by Leonardo's katana. He was stabbed. He was beaten. He was, tackled, all sorts of stuff. Now he's falling to his death with a grenade, which explodes. And our turtles have avenged their master right here, admitting, though, that they're extremely tired in the process. And they eventually make their way down to the floor, finding little bits and pieces of Shredder's armor right here, which they quickly discard by throwing them over their shoulders. And just like in our initial battle against the gang in the beginning of the story, we are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We strike hard and fade away into the night. So there you have it. We get introduced to our turtle team. We see Splinter. We get a little bit of his origin story as well. We meet Shredder, get a little bit of his origin, and we take care of him all within the same issue. So I'm pretty sure we'll never see Shredder again in any other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles books. I hope you enjoyed that key comic right there. I think this one was great. The origin story was pretty brief. It actually gets retold in later issues with a little bit more detail as well as we go through the TGRI origin, who created the ooze, the building that was processing it, and some of the secrets they're actually holding as well. So we get to explore that in later issues in more detail. And that's just kind of the beauty of this. They didn't think this book was going to go very far. I think there was only about 500 copies of the first print, and it was wildly successful, which made them want to make more copies and more issues. And so we get more fleshed out characters. We get the return of Shredder eventually, and we get a retelling of the origin story. So let me know what you thought about that down below in the comments. And if it's your first time here, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well and check out the join button. But as always, I appreciate you watching the video. I'll see you all down below in the comments.